Welcome back to another Micmac Tabletop review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Stoeger Condor I 12-20 gauge combo over-under shotgun. This is the Stoeger Condor I 12 gauge over-under shotgun. It also came with a 20 gauge barrel. As far as over-under shotguns go, the Stoeger Condor is without a doubt in the lowest price range of offerings. While very economical, the Stoeger Condor is still known for its acceptable performance. That combination made the Stoeger Condor combo shotgun very popular indeed as an affordable entry over-under or as a reasonable choice for rounding out the shotgun rack with a reliable, good-performing 12-20 gauge combo over-under. Until recently, this was my son's shotgun. He bought it about 16 years ago. He paid under $200 out the door for it new at the time. Other than an additional 20 gauge barrel, nothing came with it. No case, no extra chokes, no manual, nothing. Still, for what he got, I thought he'd done quite well with his choice. When he decided to upgrade a while back, he offered it to me for what he could get in trade. How could I pass that up? I'll admit neither one of us has been all that much into shotguns in the past. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year we'd take the opportunity to break some clays at a local area sporting clay range. He with his Stoeger over-under, which he often complained about, and me with my Franke 12-gauge semi-automatic. While we often talked about upgrading our equipment in the hopes of improving our performance, it was always difficult to justify the cost. My son is career military, and as he is rapidly getting into within striking distance of retirement, he says he realizes the importance of hobbies. Even better, his wife enjoys sporting clays. She has her own 28 gauge over-under. So my son has decided to move on to what he considers more respectable equipment, and he's left me with his Stoeger Condor. And the question is, how good or poor of a gun is it really? Now, let's make sure this gun is cleared first. And by the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stoeger Industries is a firearm manufacturer and importer of firearms into the United States. The name Stoeger comes from the German nickname for fighter or warrior. The company was founded in 1924 and is headquartered in Acquakeek, Maryland. Stoeger Industries is a wholly owned subsidiary of Benelli USA, which in turn is owned by the Italian firearms conglomerate Beretta. If you look at the right side of the receiver on this Stoeger Condor, you can see where it says Stoeger Incorporated, Acquakeek, Maryland. On the underside of the receiver you'll see stamped E.R. Amontino, the serial number, and then made in Brazil. On the left side is stamped Model Condor I 12 gauge 3-inch chamber. Okay, so we have a Stoeger 12 gauge made in Brazil by E.R. Amontino and imported into the U.S. by Stoeger. By the way, E.R. Amontino is also known as Boito, and Boito is a Brazilian firearms manufacturer founded in 1955. Boito is well known for its double-barreled shotguns marketed and distributed in the United States under the Stoeger brand. Boito started to export and sell its shotguns to the United States under the Kmart brand between the 1970s and 1980s. Historically, the company and its models were criticized by customers due to its low-quality products. I actually have one of those 70s Boito shotguns in an over-under 20 gauge, and indeed, although it's okay, it really isn't that great of a gun. However, since 1913, E.R. Amontino has been the official representative of the Italian manufacturer Benelli in Brazil's market. And note that today, E.R. Amontino, or Boito, exports about 70% of its production to the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and Argentina, among other countries. Boito shotguns can be found in over 24 countries all over the world. As for specifications, this particular gun came as the Condor I field dual combo with a 12 and 20 gauge barrel set. Both the 28-inch barrel 12 gauge and the 26-inch barrel 20 gauge came with vented ribs, brass bead sight, in-screw and IC, or improved cylinder and M, or modified choke tubes. Both the 12 and 20-inch gauge barrels are chambered for 3-inch shells. This Condor came with blued barrels with a satin walnut stock and forend. It has one trigger and polished auto shell extractors to make it easier to remove spent shells. The second upper barrel is set by inertia when the first barrel, the lower one, is fired. The safety automatically sets to safe when you close the action, and the length of pull is 14 5/8 inches. Weight of the 12 gauge barrels is 7.5 pounds, and with the 20 gauge barrels its overall weight is 7.9 pounds. The Stoeger combo field shotgun was still available until recently, although with slightly different specs, such as a set of 3 chokes instead of just the one set, all for about $600. And the same gun is still available today without the extra 20 gauge barrel for about $450. That's a pretty good deal. In addition to 12 and 20 gauge, the Condor is also available in 410 and 28 gauge, although the ability to add choke tubes is only available in the 20 and 12 gauge. As for pros and cons, we should start off by keeping in mind that the Stoeger Condor is meant to be an entry-level, budget-friendly over-under shotgun. As you're probably aware, you can spend a lot of money on over-under shotguns. The average over-under price seems to be in the $1,500 to $3,000 price range, but there are a number of guns listed in the category of economical. So what are some of the economical over-unders? CZ Redhead Premier at about $1,000, the Mossberg International Silver Reserve at about $750, Savage Model 555 at about $770, and the Stoeger Condor 12 gauge 26 ST at about $450. At under $500, the Stoeger Condor usually ranks in one of the most affordable you'll find. Of course, affordable is one thing, cheap is another, and junk is obviously worse. The question here is, which is the Condor? To be honest, I'm no expert, and my needs realistically are what you might call that of an occasional clay shooter. As such, it's really hard for me to justify spending even $500. At the same time, I try hard not to waste money on junk, no matter how low the price may be. After all, junk is junk. And I should also reveal that my son's major complaint about his gun is his tendency to fail to fire on the second chamber from time to time. And this turns out to be a common problem according to the internet. His second area of complaint has to do with the fit and finish. Looking up close, yep, not the finest. That goes for both the metal and the wood parts. That doesn't mean it's junk or even cheap. In fact, this gun is ruggedly built, more like a workhorse than a racehorse. It doesn't need to be pampered. If it falls into the mud, no big deal. And this one has. Its ruggedness is verified by the large number of Stoeger Condors you'll find at ranges that have shotguns to rent. That's because they're known to hold up to abuse, and I actually like that. My son's final complaint regarding the Stoeger Condor was its weight. He always said he thought it was a little heavy. At about 7.5 pounds, I guess it is a little heavy compared to its 6-pound competition. To be fair, I don't recall my son ever criticizing the gun's accuracy. We're both well aware that most guns, including the Stoeger Condor, shoots better than our own skill levels. Poor performance usually comes down to poor technique, and usually you can measure your level of poor technique by the size of the bruise on your shoulder or your chin, and it doesn't matter if you paid $500 or $25,000 for the gun. So that being said, my son still thought he could do better than this Stoeger Condor. And that is actually a common occurrence according to gun shop owners. The Condor was a cheap way to enter into the world of shotgun sports, but as his skills have improved, he's become increasingly ready to trade the Condor into something better. That doesn't mean the Condor is a bad gun, but it is what it is. With improved skills, experience, and knowledge, even the decision as to the next gun will likely be more successful. So my son believes he's ready. But then my son's skills easily exceed mine, and my needs are simpler. I'm probably more forgiving in my assessment of the Stoeger Condor. Given what I paid for this gun, the fact that it came with 2 barrels, I say this Stoeger Condor seems like a pretty good deal. My only real gripe is the automatic reset safety. I keep forgetting to take it off, but that's my fault. But I also find the Stoeger to be noticeably less refined overall. This is where you get what you paid for. A couple of things about the second barrel not firing. I found that cleaning the internal mechanism is important, and shooting light loads may not provide the inertia needed to set the sear for the second barrel. If you have this problem, try putting the safety back on and then take it off again, and the second barrel will probably now fire when you pull the trigger. Now let's take a moment to look at why the second barrel may not fire. I've removed the stock and we can see the sear and safety mechanisms here. When you open and close the action, the hammers are cocked and the safety resets to the on position. Pushing the safety off engages the sear for the lower barrel. When I pull the trigger, the hammer drops. Pulling the trigger again, and you can see that the sear is out of reach and won't release the upper hammer. But if I tap the rear of the receiver with this plastic hammer, it moves forward, and now the second hammer will drop when I pull the trigger. If the mechanism is dirty, or the inertia bump from the last firing isn't strong enough, the sear won't move into position. Now if light loads are all you have, or what you want, you can put the safety back on and then off again, and the sear will move forward and reset so the second barrel can be fired. So that's what's going on. Hope this helps. As for function, break-open shotguns like this over-under are like revolvers in the handgun world. Simple and efficient. Push this lever over to break open, load the appropriate 2 3/4 inch shells. These are spent shells for demonstration purposes. Close the action. Note that the safety automatically sets when you close the action. When ready, take the safety off, point, and pull the trigger. That will discharge the lower barrel. It's the recoil that sets the second trigger, as I said before, so I'm just going to bump the gun on the shoulder pad here. You can hear the click. Point again and pull the trigger again, and the upper barrel will fire. Push the brake lever over and open the action. The extractors will lift the shell slightly for easy removal. Reload to repeat. Basically, that's it. Everything functions fairly smoothly, although you have to remember to take the safety off. Take up is about 1/4 inch and springy, but with a crisp release. Trigger pull is fairly light at 4.5 pounds. Personally, I don't think the 12 gauge recoil is all that bad. With my long arms, even 14 5/8 length of pull works for me. To disassemble, push the button on the underside of the forend and pull down. The forend drops away from the gun. The barrel is hooked into the receiver, swing it down and you can remove it. And that's it. Easy to clean and or switch barrels. Reassembly is the opposite. Return the barrel and close the action. Return the forend and you're done. And that's all there is to it. Probably the most attractive feature of the Stoeger Condor is its price. The price of a new Stoeger Condor combo shotgun is about $600. The price of a new Stoeger Condor 12 gauge field model is about $450, and a new Stoeger Condor field 28 inch synthetic can be had for only about $300 today. Pretty good. If you find a used Condor like this one, expect to pay about $350. Trade-in value is probably about $200, $250. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you that if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching. Well, in summary, today we took a look at the popular Stoeger Condor I 12 gauge over-under shotgun. This particular one was bought new by my son back in 2007. It was the combo model, so it came with 2 barrels, the 12 and the 20 gauge set. In the world of over-under shotguns, the Stoeger Condor is undoubtedly at the lower range of offerings. But as an entry-level workhorse shotgun, the Stoeger Condor still delivers acceptable performance. And with a bit of internal cleaning of the receiver and a little bit of attention to the loads, this gun's tendency to occasionally fail firing the second barrel appears to have been solved. I bought this Stoeger Condor I for my son last year. Before that, I'd only shot it maybe a couple of times. I've always preferred my Franke semi-auto 12 gauge for sporting clays. But I suppose a good question now should be, what do I think of the Stoeger after a few months of ownership? To be honest, I think the Stoeger Condor combo package is a lot of shotgun for the money. Yeah, I really like what I paid for this shotgun, but beyond that, even at $600 for a new Stoeger combo, for what you get, I think it can be a real bargain. Too bad it's no longer available. But even at $450 for a new Stoeger Condor, or even $300 for the Condor Field 28-inch synthetic shotgun today, what the heck? And here's the thing, if you're new to the sport and trying to find your way through the high-priced maze of over-under shotguns, I don't think it's a bad thing to start off with a Stoeger Condor. You can have fun, gain some experience, and learn some things about the sport and yourself without breaking the bank while you do so. Meanwhile, you can enjoy a gun that I think has a good appearance, is versatile, available at a great price, and will deliver acceptable performance. And if in the end you find your interest in buying an over-under shotgun is just a passing fancy, you're not out much. Or if you find you love it and your skills warrant increasing your commitment and a better gun, well, again, you're not out much, and you probably have a better idea of what you want for your next gun. Win-win. And what about me? Will I keep this inexpensive over-under? Well, to be honest, I may have moved on myself when it comes to clay shooting, so I'm finding that I don't enjoy this Stoeger as much these days, and I do long for something a little better. But like my son, it's this basic Stoeger over-under shotgun that's gotten me to this level. So I'd have to say that this Stoeger has served its purpose very well. Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.